Hello, guten Tag und grüß Gott. Today is May the 14th, 2022. So here we are, almost half through with May already. Time flies. Tempus fugit. Anyway, I don't know what to say about this, but this week, since the last video, which was on Sunday, I'm not sure what date it was, but it was I think it was 5/8, and here we are 5/14 on Saturday. So this is day number 80 in the war in Ukraine, and the news coming out of there is not encouraging for either side. It just seems to be, I don't know. I'm having the feeling it's like a quagmire of some sort. They're making reports of the Ukrainians are pushing the Russians back out of some of the villages in the eastern Ukraine, the Donbass area, and but the Russians, are having another offensive, from the north. So I'm not sure that the news is actually coming through to us very effectively. And that's probably because nobody really knows. But, this is just a really strange thing. Just this last week, a Republican committee led by the Senate leader McConnell went to meet with Zelensky in Kiev. Wow, how weird is that? But that war, and I'm not sure whether, people are actually paying as much attention to it as maybe we should, or maybe we shouldn't, because it's, from my perspective, it's really, really quite scary. There's some things that are brewing there on the background that really have me concerned. For instance, the grain harvest. The Ukrainian grain harvest is down by 35%. Now, just in wheat alone, Russia and the Ukraine have more than 50%, produce more than 50% of the world's total wheat harvest. And most of that is actually produced for export. And it feeds nations of the world. Even the Romans or the Greeks, if they didn't have wheat and corn, some of those things that were the staple foods of their population, there was trouble. And I think, we may be heading for trouble on this. So, yeah, this little war in the Ukraine. And okay, I shouldn't perhaps say a little war, because there are 150,000 Russian troops involved, and I don't know how many from the Ukraine, probably around 50,000 or maybe somewhere in that neighborhood, is not really a little war. The casualties that are being reported are not really very high. We're talking about estimates range like 10,000 Russian soldiers may have died, and maybe an equal amount of military personnel in the Ukraine as well. So yeah, it's significant. But the impact on the world hasn't really been publicly assessed as much as I think it should be, and we should be really concerned. And maybe the concern around the world, if it's great enough, would have an influence in stopping this war. So we have China. I mean, we have the Finlanders and Finland and Sweden applying to become members of NATO, and they have been staying neutral so far, because Finland, of course, borders the Russians, and so and there have been wars between Russia and Finland quite a bit, and in fact, the Finland military is quite organized, and they're on alert right now because the Prime Minister of Finland says, well, if the Russians can invade their neighboring country, what's them to stop from invading us? And so they want to become part of NATO real quick. And Sweden too, although I don't think Sweden has a border with Russia, if I'm not mistaken, but Russia would like to have this buffer of neutrality around them, and it makes them a little more comfortable because, an invasion from the West, is not wouldn't happen as readily, if they really feel that way. In any case, so that's a huge problem, and Turkey, who is a member of NATO, and they are an applicant to the EU, but they're a member of NATO. They're not too crazy about the applications and the fast track of Finland and Sweden. As a matter of fact, they're signaling a resistance to that. So there's going to be a fight. The Russians, of course, are saying there'll be dire consequences, if you join the NATO. And of course, the Finns say, well, the hell with you, because, you're probably going to invade us again. Of course, even though Russia, won ultimately in Finland, it was at that great cost, I like to quote, the Bunker Hill incident, from, in the British Parliament, when the Bunker Hill battle was fought, of course, the rebels, the American rebels lost Bunker Hill, but the Brits' cost of taking it was just immense, and I can't remember the statistics right now, but what I do remember is somebody in the British Parliament after that standing up and saying, yes, well, if we win any more battles like this, there'll be nobody left to report them. Anyway, so the Russians, could be looking forward to something like that in Finland, maybe win the battle. But right now it looks like it's not going too well for them in the Ukraine. But they haven't mustered their entire potential military of the 1 million man army and so forth. So we don't know which way this is going to go. So let's see, Patrick, when was that? My son Patrick here is joining us, and I'm really always glad to have his opinion on world affairs because he's on top of it far more than I am. Now, we just had the 77th anniversary celebration of the end of World War II in Russia and the Ukraine.
It's technically VE Day. Victory in Europe.
Yeah, well, there you go. See, he knows. Anyway, so the Russian, Putin, took this opportunity to blame the West, for causing this problem, causing him to invade another country and killing their people. I'm having a tough time understanding that. And Zelensky, of course, the West being in sympathy with Zelensky, they're showing him laying a wreath at the border, and I think I have some sort of a picture of that, and I'll just hold that up. So there is Zelensky, and this celebration has been an annual event on May 9th in Russia and the USSR. And it's been a big deal because they always parade their nuclear weapons and whatnot. They're so proud of their military at that time. And this is a time for the military to be proud of the fact, that they actually overcame and were the victor, basically, in World War II. And so that's always a big deal. But here, Russia is kind of at war with itself. And I know the Ukraine is different from, Russia, but they use the Cyrillic alphabet. It almost seems like a brother war. It's just absolutely crazy. So on the 9th, which is Monday, we expected to have some sort of a big deal from Russia, that maybe there was some sort of an armistice or some sort of olive branch was being waved, back and forth. None of that happened. So
yeah, we expected them to declare some sort of victory.
yeah, or declare a victory, of some sort. Like, okay, we've got the Donbass. Oh, we got the water back to the Crimean, or something like that.
Or at least, say we successfully denazified the area.
Yeah. Or any other lie, which would be great, because governments love to lie, because, we love to listen to lies. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing that. Anyway, so we have, I'm going to go through some of the headlines here, as I usually do, and I'm going to try to make that as quick. But I do want to make sure that, I cover some of the important things that happened last week, because things are happening fast and furious. Now, in Afghanistan, Afghanistan, of course, has won their country back. We left, just like the Russians left, back in the 1980s. And we left, and they got their country back. And of course, they knew that they would probably get their country back. So the Taliban ordered Afghan women to cover their faces in public and to avoid leaving their homes in the latest restrictions they have imposed on women since taking power last year. Now, what they said, is, oh, we're giving women freedom. We don't restrict women. In fact, they can go to college. They can get educated. And all of that went down a shitter. So much for their promises, because Sharia law doesn't have much room for equality for women. And I know that some Muslim parts of the world, will say, well, hey, you're full of shit on that. The women have equal freedom. Look at Pakistan; they had a woman president and so forth. So, nothing is 100%. There are always outliers here. But the Taliban is pretty strict about their country. So, what's fascinating is that the Steele dossier. The Steele dossier, the fact that Trump was basically accused of colluding with the Russians, and the basis for that collusion was the Steele dossier. And of course, this has been totally debunked, and there's an article in the journal that said that 3 friends just kind of talked about the Steele dossier, and then it was picked up, by the Democrats as potentially, a way to whip and beat or get rid of Trump, as a president. Because, boy, they really worked hard on that. 2 impeachments, for Christ's sakes, yeah. So the other thing is that COVID-19 forces Apple to rely on China staff. And this is kind of interesting because Apple engineers have been shut out for the past 2 years by rigid border controls, tended to keep the COVID-19 virus at bay. So China, is really serious about this stuff, about not letting Westerners in because they're afraid that we're lackadaisical about COVID. And of course, when this whole thing started, the Democrats said, why are you discriminating against Chinese? Let them in, let them in. In fact, the phrase went around, go and kiss a Chinese or an Asian or something like that. It's crazy, So the Chinese are having a big problem with COVID-19 again. So that makes me wonder whether we're going to have a problem. So now they don't let the Apple engineers in to supervise the production of the iPhone and, products that go into the iPhone in China. And so I don't know, what's going to happen to the quality of it. But I can only hope, that the Chinese engineers are probably as good as the American engineers. And, maybe that's going to be something. Several hundred engineers are going to be laid off in America because, Apple is going to find out that, hey, this works pretty good. So, the stock market. Sell-off persists. So in the headlines, which is really fascinating, the opening of the Parliament, the Queen, who's now in her 90s, she's a 96-year-old Queen. And I've talked in a video before that I remember how she was coronated and what a pretty young woman she was. We were all, glued to the TV. There was live stream because there was no recording at that time commercially, I think it was already in the wings, but there were no VCRs or anything like that. So, I watched the coronation of Queen Elizabeth live. In fact, that was my very first encounter with television, back in Germany. And so it's customary that the Queen opens Parliament. She shows up in her regalia and opens Parliament, but she was not doing too well, so Prince Charles had to step in and do the duty. And, that sounds okay. And the reason I'm actually bringing that up, because there's a fascinating aspect to it, is they brought in the crown of the Queen and Charles, not wearing the crown, okay? But the crown was there in order to open the Parliament, which I think is so quaint, is that we do pay attention to those, details, and that one could say, well, maybe they're meaningless, but to the British people, this is really meaningful. And I'm going to hold this up as a record of for the future. So you see here the crown being brought in in a pillow. Prince Charles is looking at the crown. The Queen is absent, and he is there to open Parliament. So the British Parliament still, the British people still go by this kind of pomp and circumstance. And you may have noticed in the background, of the Parliament, all this gilded stuff. And these guys are really serious about bringing that crown in. If you see this, that, that the Queen is missing. But okay, but the crown is okay. So there you go. Oh, the other interesting thing on that, in the headlines here is, I guess I should show that too, is the spike of gasoline prices. And there's a really neat little curve there. It shows, what's happening to gasoline prices. And it's crazy. That's what's happening to it. It's crazy. Gasoline now is typically over $6. And I remember, back in the 1980s when gasoline went to $1.10 or something like this, all of the traffic to the river stopped, and the people were in panic, that depended on tourism, at the Colorado River. So, and now, we're typically, I just recently drove up north, I talked about this, but the gasoline for the Hellcat, my Hellcat, when I have to use premium gasoline, was typically $6.50 a gallon. It sounds like European prices, for Christ's sakes. And this is America. What's going on here? Now, here's something else that is kind of interesting. And I want to show you, there's some really neat graphs here on inflation. So I'm going to hold this Wall Street Journal up. And, for posterity, there are numbers for inflation in the different localities. So, the big cities. Phoenix, it's 11%. And I guess Phoenix, Arizona is 11%. That's the highest, I'm not sure why that is. And the lowest is actually in San Francisco. And that makes no sense to me. Why is there the lowest but, maybe it's price control or whatever goes on here. Nevertheless, inflation pressure continues. So the consumer price index, from last year has gone up 8.3%, and in April. And Phoenix and Atlanta climbed over 10%. So the inflation is something, and it varies from store to store. For instance, I bought something today in a local market, butane canisters, 4 of them for $5, which is pretty reasonable. That's a really good price. So I've seen these butane canisters, at $5 each. So, it depends on where you go, and you don't really know. Here's another thing, is a lot of companies are saying, hey, COVID is kind of contained, let's go back to the office. And so, a lot of people that have been working remotely and have been doing their job and so forth, they're not too crazy about coming back. So the employees, are tricking them, the employers are tricking them into coming back and say, come back at least for one day. So guess what? Which day do you think they picked, Patrick? What do you think? Which day did they pick to come back in most places? And that's now kind of popular.
I would assume Monday.
Wrong.
Friday.
Wrong.
Wednesday?
Yeah. The hump day. This is when they want to come back right in the middle, and then they don't want to have anything to do with going to the office. Crazy, huh? And of course, they have to work themselves up from Monday all the way to Wednesday. So I don't know which is going to go, but it's evidently, the people that are feeling the pinch from the absence of their employees, and they're probably going to be more insistent, or what the hell they're going to do with the real estate of the office. I guess that's kind of an issue as well. So let's see what else we have here. Yes. This is a big deal here. We finally have a photograph of a black hole in the universe, and guess what? It's the black hole, that supermassive black hole at the center of our own galaxy, the Milky Way. So I'm going to hold this up as a picture, and there it is for posterity, the black hole. It's a black hole. So, can you see a black hole? Of course not, but you can see the surroundings of it, and I know I've seen videos, that have been captured where they track planetary stuff around the black hole, and it really zips around there at some goodly part of light speed even, so there's something supermassive going on in the center of our universe. And if you think about a spiral universe the way it is, and there's this concentration of stars in the center, you could kind of say, geez, there's something in the middle going on that's kind of holding the stuff together, So, this is what happened. So here's the other thing, with the black hole. What happened is it seems like cryptocurrency has fallen into the black hole. Holy shit. Stable coin crashes and they have a run on the bank. The people that hold stable coin or, cryptocurrency, highly leveraged, they're talking about, suicide and things like that. It's really kind of, it's almost like the days, of the Great Depression, the market crash before the Great Depression back in the 1920s. And, stockbrokers and people jumping out of the windows in New York, I don't know how prevalent that was, but that was the big deal,
It happened once, and I think to this day there's still debate whether or not it was an accident or a suicide.
Okay.
And it might not have even been a stockbroker, but it happened in 1929.
Okay. So, anyway, that's the story that survived, because, I heard about it in school, and we even knew about that in Germany. Oh, the crash in the United States, the brokers were jumping out of windows, so it's greatly exaggerated for the most part, right? So...
Well, the crash was pretty bad.
Yeah, the crash was really bad, and in Germany it was bad too, so... Well, in the 20s, not so much, but as soon as... Yeah, the 20s were
the 20s were bad for Germany, the 20s were not bad for the United States, but 1929 was when the stock market crashed, that everyone talks about.
Oh, okay.
That started the Great Depression. Theoretically, it started earlier than that, but you know what I mean.
So, Another thing that's kind of interesting on the headlines here of Wall Street Journal is happy the elephant has lawyers in arguing to free her from the zoo. Now here's an elephant that has been in the New York Zoo for, well, the elephant is 51 years old, and she's been there for 40 years. And the lawyers are going to court and saying, this elephant is being imprisoned against her will, and for more than 40 years kept as a prisoner. Happy is in a small but growing company of animals and natural entities fighting for legal rights with help from their self-appointed human lawyers in U.S. courts. So I don't know what the reason what they're asking for Happy is to go to the sanctuary. What was that movie, that had the sanctuary for humans and,
Logan's Run.
Logan's Run, I think it was, yeah, and the guys shouting from the top of the stairs, there is no sanctuary, because they were going to do in the old guys, so anyway. So I don't know how this is going to go, but hey, elephants, we'll see what the court says, whether elephants are property or whether they have elephant rights.
Well, they can't hold copyright.
I'm sorry?
If an elephant paints something, it can't hold copyright.
Ah, okay.
That's already been established in U.S. and international law. Animals cannot hold copyright. And that also might extend to AI. Because it's not animals may not hold copyright, it's non-human entities may not hold copyright.
Oh, so they wrote it cleverly.
Yeah.
Non-human entities. Okay, so, if somebody uses a cockroach to paint a picture, with the tracks and stuff, then the cockroach has
free.
No right.
Yeah.
But he does.
No, it's copyright free.
Copyright free.
It's in the Creative Commons.
I wonder whether
it's actually
anybody
not
ever...
even. It's even harder core than in the Creative Commons, because the Creative Commons would include you have to give credit. You can use it however you want, but you have to give credit. It's just nobody has the rights to it.
Fascinating. So I wonder whether anybody ever made a cockroach picture. I don't know. Maybe not. So the last headline here from Saturday, which is today. And Musk says Twitter deal is on hold. Imagine that. So the Twitter deal is on hold. And what he's saying is that, and he tweeted the Twitter deal is on hold, and I guess the lawyers, that have something to do with it that he hired, in order to get this job done, said, hey, hold on a second. And so he says, but I'm still committed to the purchase. Because I think he put his name on a contract.
Yeah, he has. So the way it works now is if they prove that X percentage of the users of Twitter are bots, then Elon can back out of the deal, because it's in the contract. But if they can't prove that, or they prove that it's not that, less than it, then Elon Musk is required by to pay for Twitter.
Yeah, there is some sort of a penalty, not, I just read.
Sue him.
Well, I think, of course they can sue him, but
no, they can sue him to forcefully pay the fee that he promised.
Oh, that, yeah. So that means that, I just read about it, that if he cancels on that contract or wants to cancel, his exposure is something like, I think 20 billion or something like that. So it's fairly hefty.
Yeah. If you want a detailed explanation on it, Patrick Doyle did a video on Elon Musk's Twitter deal.
Patrick Doyle, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Irish finance guy.
Yeah, you know what? I'm sorry. I've heard the name, but I'm not familiar with it.
You've watched a couple of his videos.
That's why I heard the name, But forgive me. I'm an old guy, right? So there's one more thing that I wanted to mention, and that is my wife, Marge, had really an interesting experience this week, in that she was invited to a radio podcast. and to a radio podcaster to talk about her involvement with the Black Stuntmen's Association and how she fought for jobs and equal rights, of minorities in the entertainment industry. And I'm going to try to embed some sort of a link in this video, when I look at editing of it. So then if you press on that link, hopefully, and I'm going to hold up my hand, and hopefully I'll put it right at the end of the finger if I do that right. So anyway, I would encourage anyone that sees this particular video to also watch that live stream video of my wife talking about her involvement in the entertainment industry back in the 1970s. So, hey, it's really fascinating because I think it's a really, really, she caused a monumental change. And if you're looking for somebody, that has improved the world some and lifted up humanity a bit, she's right in that category. So with that, I'm going to stop the news unless, Patrick, do you have anything else about the market? The market has recovered a little bit on Friday, but still overall, I think, how much are we down from its high? Probably around 15-20%.
NASDAQ is down over 30%.
Wow, okay.
Since the high, and the S&P is down 17% was the last time I heard.
Yeah.
And in terms of crypto, just the thing that's going on right now is the stable coins, which are coins backed by some sort of currency, whether it be the US dollar, the euro, the yen, theoretically gold. I think
they're not backed, but tied to it somehow.
No, they're usually backed. So
there are dollars behind that?
Well, and then that's the problem. There are less dollars behind it than there are coins.
Huh.
And so, for example, the big one, which was Luna, was the one that collapsed.
Yeah.
Luna's down 99%.
So this is so it's almost worthless. This is what they're trying to figure out how to rescue this, because from what I understand, there is a mechanism, with stablecoin, and there are a few others that are tied to a real currency. Okay, a dollar, if that's a real currency, or a yen, or
Try to pay your taxes in Bitcoin.
Yeah,
and tell
not
me
yet.
that a dollar and tell me that the dollar is not a real currency. Regardless of how much people want to mock the US dollar, pay your taxes and anything else.
Okay, so that's as real as it gets when it comes to money, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so cryptocurrency is not money?
No, it could be.
It could be. Yeah. So there were in total in cryptocurrency, they're like $2 trillion right now, and almost half of it is lost. It's gone. And so people are, like I said before, trying to jump out a window. So, I know that there was an article in there about one guy saying, I can't pay the bank. They're going to come out for my house. I'm homeless. I think I can't handle it anymore. I have to die, that kind of thing.
One of the people that's been involved with this lost $20 billion over the last 2 weeks.
Wow.
He had a $22 billion fortune, and he lost $20 billion of it in the last 2 weeks.
Wow, that's like a small country losing its entire revenue or something for a year or more. Anyway, yeah, so there's that. Okay, so, I promised that I would do my spiritual journey. And, this may be the least interesting part of the entire video, but wow, I'm already at 34 minutes. It's going to be longer than I had thought. But last time I left you, was here I was in Zwittau. War was raging all around us. And I was wondering, when God is going to do something about that. And so, as it happened, my son, my brother, Heinz. So there were three of us at that time. You know, Walter was just a baby. You know, he was just a few months old, and Heinz was about a year and a half younger than I am, so he was about three something. And Heinz and I got diphtheria, and somehow we wound up in a hospital, and so we were in hospital beds next to each other. And so I remember, you know, Heinz, you know, we both had, you know, high temperatures and stuff, but Heinz was singing. And I remember that all the attention was on Heinz. You know, my mom was there crying with Heinz. And Heinz died. And so I remember thinking, okay, so am I next? You know, when do I get to die? And you would think that I must have also thought at that point in time, so is this God's answer to our problems, that, you know, we die? And is there a place for us that's better, you know, than war? And is that where the peace really is? So these were the things that I was thinking. And I tell you what, I can't say that I was disappointed that I made it, because eventually, you know, I got better, and yeah, Heinz was buried. And in Zwittau, Czechoslovakia. And life went on, you know, same old crap. Now, you got to wonder, you know, so here we are. I'm talking about being in a war zone and all that kind of stuff. You know, the smart people will say, well, why the hell didn't your mom and your dad take you the hell out of there? You know, you were in a war zone, you know, why didn't you leave, you know? Well, the problem was we couldn't leave. There was no transportation, you know, and from Czechoslovakia, I mean, walking was extremely dangerous. You know, it was because, you know, there were bad people there, you know, so you were safer in a city with others. And so we couldn't leave until they let us leave, you know. And so, you know, I one of my videos is already about how we left, you know. We left Czechoslovakia, you know, to Schoenstedt. And, you know, it was still the end of war, you know what I mean? That there was still fighting here and there and so forth, in Schoenstedt, Thüringen. But we were able to finally get passage, you know, to Schoenstedt. And we stayed there for a number of months, and then a horrible journey happened from Schoenstedt all the way to Heidelberg, you know, and, to the west. I don't think it was directly to Heidelberg. It was somewhere to the west, into the western sector. But yeah, so I was wondering, you know, what is, you know, is there something more than what I see around me? Is there stuff going on? And yeah, I really believe that it was definitely, I was a kid, I didn't know everything. My mom prayed to God, and there has to be a God. So with that, I will end this video, and I bid you farewell, so long, and we must infect the universe with us.